What is going on, everybody? It is your boy, back at it with yet another review. And today we're continuing our Jurassic Park / World review series, of course, aka the Jurassic review series. And today we are going to be reviewing the third film in the Jurassic franchise, that of course being Jurassic Park 3. But before we get into the actual beginning of the video, it's up, guys, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because number one, it's absolutely free. Number two, also maybe help the YouTube algorithm and recommend the video to more people, and maybe they could join. And do feel free to comment your thoughts on Jurassic Park 3 down below. But with that being said, guys, let's give a quick plot synopsis of the film, shall we? So transition and After being persuaded by a wealthy businessman to conduct an aerial tour of Isla Sorna, InGen's second site for a failed Jurassic Park experiment, Dr. Alan Grant discovers the true reason for his invitation. A tragic accident maroons the party of 7, and they must attempt to escape with their lives. So with Jurassic Park 3, I've kind of had a very, very odd relationship with this film. Because when I was younger, I grew up with the original Jurassic Park trilogies. Of course, that being Jurassic Park 1, The Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3. So I already talked loosely about this in the Lost World review. But when I was younger, Jurassic Park 3 was actually my favorite of the trilogy. And then when I started to grow older, I thought I actually did not like this movie at all. But then, I think sometime around when Jurassic World Dominion came out, or if not a little bit later after that, when I decided to re-watch this film again, I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was guilty pleasure fun. So, let's see what I think of the film now after another rewatch. Do I still have the same feelings as last time, or did it change yet again? Let's just see. Alright, so starting off with the good for Jurassic Park 3, number one thing I gotta talk about in here is the Spinosaurus as the dinosaur main villain. The Spinosaurus might as well be tied with the Indominus Rex for my favorite dinosaur villain in this franchise. It has a very unique look to it. I love all the horror-esque sequences we get with it. Along with the Spinosaurus being a very good dinosaur antagonist to our human characters, there's some really, really great animatronic work at play with the Spinosaurus in this film. There's some moments where they used CGI, which we'll get to a little bit later in this review. But for the animatronics that they use for the Spinosaurus, it looks amazing. It looks terrifying, and they did a great job with it. Also in here, you have Alan Grant returning as the main character, which of course he was the main character in the first Jurassic Park. He didn't come back for the second one. Instead, the main character was Ian Malcolm, which, if you watched my The Lost World review, you would know, even though I love Ian Malcolm as a character, I don't think he's a main character. I think he serves best as a side character. And I much rather prefer Alan Grant and Owen Grady compared to him in the lead role. So having Alan Grant back is a plus in here. Sam Neill, of course, still does good in the role as he usually does in most of the movies I see him in. And he has a nice little supporting role in, like, friendship with Eric in this film that I did enjoy. The kills in here are quite mean. Most of them are off screen, don't get me wrong, but there's some very, very mean kills in here still that definitely make the Spinosaurus and another scene we're going to talk about a little bit later on definitely add some more weight to them and make them more intense with the kills that happen off screen and stuff. I think the Joe Johnston as a director also does really, really good. Is he on the level of Steven Spielberg? No, far from it. But I still thought he did a decent job at directing this movie. And, of course, the biggest positive I gotta talk about for this movie is the birdcage / pterodactyl scene that you have in here. This is maybe, aside from the Spinosaurus, what this movie's most known for, even though most people do not enjoy this film, the birdcage sequence is always a positive for most of the people I hear. So that is the good done. Now let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. And I'll go mixed positive first, then I'll go in the mixed. And if you guys do not know what the mixed means, it means like categories I'm 50-50 on mostly. First off, I have the length of the movie. So this is actually, I believe, the shortest Jurassic Park movie, so it easily makes it digestible for me, I think. Out of the first film, besides the first film in Jurassic World, like, I wouldn't have a problem rewatching this movie because it's very quick, very digestible in the Jurassic franchise. However, there's parts of this film where I feel as if they could have maybe added some extra things to it, but they don't really. So, I'm mostly positive on the length because it makes it a fast Jurassic movie. But then as well, I don't know, there's parts of the film where they could have added something to further out maybe the family relationship or the friendship between Alan and Billy. I don't know. It feels as if just they could have added something else to the length of the movie, possibly. And then the other mix, speaking of Billy, I have him as a character in here. Because at first I like him as a character, I really do. But then they do this drastic change with him where he suddenly does something where it feels as if his character wouldn't do that, and he just does it. That was just an odd change of pace for that character in this movie, in my opinion. That is the mix done. Now let's move on to the bad. First up, the CGI. I think this is actually, out of the original trilogy, this is the one with the worst CGI out in the franchise. Maybe close tied with The Lost World. I'd have to look at the CGI for that again, even though I watched that the other day. I would have to compare the two, but I think the CGI in here is not the best, to say the least. I, as well, think that the parents in here are very, very unlikable, particularly with the mom in this film. I find completely infuriating because she's the character in here, the stereotypical character that literally does the dumbest crap in this whole entire movie, where I can't help but root against her because she literally does the stupidest things possible. I found this film to have a simple plot too. And this is a very, very minor negative. I would just like to point that out. But this feels as if it just has a very simple, straightforward plot, which is very, very odd, where you have, so Alan Grant doesn't want to go to the dinosaur island. He ends up getting dragged out to this dinosaur island because the parents want to save wants him to save their son, and he knows the ways around the island, so... And the plot, meh. It's not nearly as compelling as the first film, obviously, and I think it may be a better plot than the second film, but still, that's not saying much, because the second film didn't have a really good plot either. And then, the final negative in here, the dream sequence. Just play the clip. Alan! Whoever wrote that, like, come on now. We're gonna have a dream sequence with a talking dinosaur saying, Alan, like, why? Why was that a good idea? And that's the part of this movie that most people make fun of every single time when they talk about Jurassic Park 3. And probably this film, that's my final negative of the film, but there's a lot more negatives to this film I just can't think of right now, but this is sort of, most people, out of the original trilogy, this is actually most people's least favorite, and I still enjoy this more than the second film. This film is very much like a guilty pleasure type movie. So, with that being said, let's bring out the Toxic Nita, and I'm gonna give it a Toxic Goodness, a B-. Yeah. It's still fun. I would much rather rewatch this film than the Lost World. This actually does entertain me, even though it has a bunch of glaring flaws throughout this film. But ladies and gentlemen, that's just my thoughts on Jurassic Park 3. Be sure to let me know your thoughts on this film down below. But with that being said, guys, I'll see y'all next one, everybody. Peace out.